All right, welcome back to Wild Medicine. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Paris, and this is part 2 of my conversation with Alli Arruda. We are doing an in-depth part of cyclical wisdom, and we talk about all the aspects of how we can take and leverage what we are actually doing and use our menstrual and cyclical wisdom in order to reclaim our energy, because often exhaustion has a lot more to do with overextending ourselves and not honoring what our body is actually inviting us to do and how to show up. And we're talking through our strategies and the information around how we can leverage that wisdom in order to continue to grow and expand without the burnout. So I hope you enjoy this second part of our conversation.
Okay, so then now we're wrapping up the day and you cold plunge in the evening.
Yeah, yes. So my daughter and I have a hot tub every single night.
Love that.
And right now we roll in the snow because our cold plunge isn't winterized, because that's my mistake. Another story for another day. But we're using snow.
Everyone has it.
Yeah.
If you're in Canada, you have access to it.
Yeah.
So cold plunging is easier than you think. Mm-hmm. Don't need a tub.
I've even seen people take water bottles and freeze them and then throw those in the tub and reuse them. Like, I think that's a genius idea for a cold plunge.
I love getting scrappy, so that's some good takeaways for people.
I mean, if you don't go to Benchmark.
That's right.
You could
throw some water bottles or roll in the snow. And then bedtime for you, what's that looking like?
So I could be better for sure. If I was going to give myself any advice, like, that would be something I would do better. I have my red light. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read.
What are you reading right now?
The Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, were you expecting to hear that?
No. I was not expecting that.
I know. Honest. I kept reading all of these personal development and mindset books, and they were all referencing. And so my husband was like, well, why don't you
just read the Holy Grail? Yeah.
So yeah, that's my nighttime read, light.
Yep.
Love that. What else do I have? I have The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. Have you read that book?
I've not.
You would love it. It's fabulous. I have like every book you could think of. That's a lie, but a lot of personal development.
It's my favorite genre.
Yeah, mindset.
Same.
Anything that sets me up, like, reminds me of what really matters. I think when at the peak of my burnout, I really forgot what mattered.
So let's talk about that, because I feel like I have flirted with burnout.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've gotten deep into it, which I should express some gratitude for. Mm-hmm. Or maybe I had the foresight to feel it coming and try to do something to course correct. But I would love to understand what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, it was terrible.
How you identified it, and how you...
Everything came crashing down all at once. That's how it felt.
Okay.
And it was 2020, and I actually was 30 pounds heavier than I am today, and I was this size my whole life. I worked around the clock. I mean, COVID was weird for every business owner, right? But and everyone. But it was a rude awakening. I really felt like my practice was out of control and I didn't know how to fix it. Like, it was so busy. I am not proud, but at that point, and this is why I had to break up with smoothies for a while, was smoothies were starting to be correlated with my burnout habits. And so I actually got rid of all of my lunch breaks and all of my breaks, and I would just drink smoothies so I could see more patients and not even give myself like a pee break or like any sort of. And I used to go from clinic from like 10 in the morning until like 6 at night, and then I would run wild collectives. And I remember my associate now, Dr. Diana Castleman, she shadowed me, and it looked like her eyes were gonna bulge out of her face. Like, she was like, is this what naturopathic life is like? Because I don't want this, And I just had been doing it for so long, and I think I was trying to prove myself to people.
To who?
I know.
Others?
Parents, like, whatever.
Isn't that an interesting topic?
Yeah.
About, which could honestly be a topic for another time, about the, people-pleasing mentality and like
good girl conditioning.
Yeah, what you're trying to prove, who you're trying to prove it to. We actually had this conversation with one of our trainers about how that, can really make you feel, and you think back like, oh yeah, these people that follow me on Instagram from high school that I don't talk to anymore. Like, why? But it's so interesting, and I think that honestly could be a different conversation.
100%. Like,
so you were trying to prove to yourself or others.
I was successful, stemming from a place of feeling unworthy.
Yeah.
Right. So hopefully no one figures out I'm a fraud and I'm unworthy. So I'll just keep working.
Yeah.
And then maybe no one will notice, And so like, I'm not proud of this next story, but it's true. I actually went profoundly deaf in my right ear, and I didn't take so much as a half a day off just to get assessed and be diagnosed, because I didn't know where I would put patients. So
Just
I
push
totally
through.
sacrificed my own health and compromised hearing. And the thing that always makes me emotional is like, if my kids try and whisper in my ear, I have no idea what they're saying. And yet I couldn't even cancel a day to go do some barometric pressure healing or whatever was, So I think, I talk about this very differently with women now because of the gravity of that. And if I were to really a lot of women who join the Wild Collective will say, everything is going great. I've achieved so much. I have the things, I've done the things. I feel numb. I feel like there's something missing. And I think one of the pieces I wanted to at least bring to this conversation is like the importance of play and pleasure. Like, to not lose sight of why we're doing all of this. How many people achieve the thing, never even celebrate, but get there and they're like, they feel like broken, or they've lost partnerships and family members and friends, and they've isolated on this pursuit for what,
Yeah.
And I see this a lot in my practice with patients where they work themselves to the core and they sacrifice their health. And now they're at retirement, and now they're ready to reclaim their health, and then, travel the world or do whatever, only to be met with like a catastrophic diagnosis, right? Like, that story's all too common. And I think this is all too normalized in North American society, is like, we really respect the hustle, and we have zero respect or admiration for the slowdown, the stillness, the restoration piece, right? And you might feel it, but I do too. Like, parts of that feel super lazy to me, and it's very confronting. And I would say it's taken a few years to heal from, and I think that's the real honesty of it. And I think probably because your self-care is dialed in, that's probably how you've been able to pull back. And I do now hear the whispers. I used to just ignore the whispers, hence going to literally. You hear the whispers, and you start, like, this week I overfilled myself, and I had this like sensation in my body yesterday. I was like, yep.
So what's this what does it feel like?
It feels like a flooding. It feels like there's too much going on and I'm way overstimulated. It's like I don't know, champagne bottle, like, pew, like it just is like,
but less cute. Like less cute. It's like not the fun version of popping champagne. Okay.
But it's like this, it feels like this weird body buzz that you would need a cold plunge to come down from.
Interesting.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, it's
I'm
like
trying
it's
to
a
think.
flooding. It's like there's too much going on, and I need to unplug myself. I am intense. I can push through. I've proven that to myself. I've broken bones. I can push through a lot of physical pain and discomfort to get something done. And what for, so I think now I'm starting, I can still make mistakes, but I'm much faster to course correct and go, okay, what was it about this week that put me in that situation? And what can I do different today, tomorrow, and next week to ensure that I protect myself basically from myself?
Yeah.
Really. Like,
It's so interesting, because I feel like sometimes I had actually said this to Matt probably about a week ago. I was like, I feel a little tight in my chest.
yeah,
Is that one?
it could be. Very much.
And not like,
learning
catastrophic.
the whispers, right?
Yeah.
No, but little whispers. And good for you for saying it out loud, because I was just not saying anything.
But I probably didn't do I probably did not take the appropriate action to nurture that and give it love and care and stillness.
But also be compassionate, because you are building something really, really special. It's probably all very exciting, and like, you're crushing it. And it's so hard to find this, so I think we have to be gentle. And so, okay, great. That's great information. Thank you, body. You're so brilliant.
Yep. Acknowledge
Here's what
it.
I can do next week to just make it slightly different so that can calm down,
Well, and I think I also get caught up in wanting to lead by example. That of course I can do that. Yeah, I can, absolutely, I can do that. Oh no, I'll do it. It's fine. And it's this weird balance of, okay, well, if you look at a team dynamic, for example, you want to delegate people so that they can have the opportunity to grow and expand in a very different way. And I'm really trying to embrace that. And like our team at Benchmark has grown over just even the last year, which is so exciting. And you can really see the people that want to grow and expand with us and with the brand and want to be able to give them that opportunity, which is such an interesting, it's like a dichotomy feeling as the owner where I'm like, well, I want to give this to you to grow and expand, but I also am like so proud to do it and I'm happy to do it. But what is the better choice?
It's so hard. And then the other voice I hear is like the business owner, it's also such a risk, right? Like you're used to doing it because it's on you. Right?
And it's depending on, who's listening to this and what your business is, like sometimes it could be, do you need to outsource? So then there's a cost. So then you take whatever expense from your bottom line that probably feels scary because it's going to affect what's going to go, like what the business is going to sit at or what you're going to take home at the end of the day, end of the year. And it's so interesting, like the psychology behind some of these decisions in business that probably is directly correlated with being overstimulated. And I do feel like I resonate with that a lot. Again, probably going back to being a high energy person.
And people probably even subconsciously you feeling the pressure of doing that for people. Like Alli's always been that person, so you better bring it, right? Like sometimes it's self-imposed of like, I don't want to let anyone down. I'm Alli. Like people expect that of me, right? So
how do I fix that?
I know. How do we do this before burnout? Okay, let's talk about one more thing I think could be vitally important for someone like yourself. And I asked if you'd had anyone on your podcast for this yet. So, there is this idea of cyclical wisdom for women and understanding that we are not mini men, that men actually work well on our circadian rhythm. So their testosterone, cortisol spikes in the morning and it slowly declines throughout the day. Our whole workforce is basically designed to honor that schedule. And then women entered the workforce and there really wasn't much consideration if that actually even helps us thrive, right? So I think now there is like really cool data in Europe. They're actually supporting women getting like menstrual days off because they need rest and recovery. So we're starting to see that there is this cyclical shift where we're honoring a woman's body or the feminine hormones body versus a male archetype. So for someone like ourselves, is there ways that we can help support our energy and prevent this by actually leveraging our menstrual cycle and the cyclical wisdom as our superpower? And so some things that we consider is that there's 4 phases of the menstrual cycle: the actual menstrual bleeding time, the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, and the luteal phase. And we can start to match that with our productivity schedule. So there's Kate Northrup is a really good, her book Do Less is really speaking to this.
I've actually never read it, but we were connected via like our network marketing partner.
Okay.
In the supplement world.
She's awesome. And that this cyclical wisdom, I think she's done a good job of helping to take what we know about the health and the female physiology and our hormonal balance and optimization with the workplace. So this is how I try and structure most things, and this has really, really helped. But what this also does is very unique to the fact that we actually need rest. We cannot. Men actually can get up and perform at the same level every single day. That's how their hormones are designed. We cannot. There's probably some days where you're like, what was I doing scheduling an event in my luteal phase? I don't want to talk to anyone. I certainly don't want to be Alli for everyone. And so can we start to match our menstrual power with our work schedule? So I'll break it down. So that menstrual bleed phase, that week, that is our winter, our inner winter. So that's when we are meant to be resting, restoring, and letting our body do what it needs to do. If it's sleep, if it's go for walks instead of HIIT training, this is just a time for like tuning in. Because our hormones are so low, this is also a time where our brain hemispheres can actually communicate very succinctly. Michelle's not in her this way.
the hand gestures.
So you can really start to integrate information. So other ways, and even with communication. So say if you've got struggle with someone you're working with and you have to have a hard conversation, you actually, I'm like, hopefully this is all cool to say on your podcast, but you could bleed on it. And what we mean on that is this is your intuitive inner winter. You're going to have your best ideas and you're going to be able to solve problems because your hormones aren't all up. So you can actually hear how you actually feel and you can process that information. And then there's a time in our menstrual cycle, if you can actually start to structure your life, and I do actually structure a lot of my tough conversations this way, I then schedule that for when I know I'm going to be most communicative. So I want to process my feelings when my hormones are lowest because my brain can do that really important integrative work of like, why am I even upset? Or I'm gonna try and not jump all over the place. I'll get there. So this is a really, really great time for rest, restoration, slowing down, built-in rest for us. And we typically should, if we can as entrepreneurs, take in a day or two of like at least easing up the schedule. You're going to get a huge return on investment. A lot of the times why so many of us are exhausted is because we're actually working against our innate nature. And so when we have this information, we just make slight changes and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm like pretty great at every phase of my month now because I actually understand what my body needs and I know how to honor it. So that's the menstrual phase. Then we move into our follicular phase. And this is when our hormones start to peak, especially our estrogen. This is like when we are on fire. Okay. So we have a lot of resiliency, a lot more energy. We can push it. We can try new training schedules. We can,
cold plunge again.
Yeah. Cold plunge again. Aim for those personal bests, but also because we have this increase in estrogen, we are much more extroverted and willing to connect and be social. So if some introverted entrepreneurs really struggle with this, that follicular ovulatory time is the best time to say yes to social engagements and put yourself out there because you're going to be much more likely to be magnetic and people find you magnetic. Like our pheromones are different. Like everything about our attraction is a lot higher. So you're going to have a lot more success than in the luteal phase. This is also a great time to take those brilliant intuitive ideas that you had in your menstrual phase and start mapping that out. So if you're like a to-do list girl and really like to plan out how this is a great time to be very clear and decisive, like, okay, this is maybe what my Q1, Q2 looks like. Like, I'm just going to make sure that I'm on track for this. Our ovulation time is like the main event. Our testosterone is peaked. Obviously, when we're talking about from like a relational, this is time of conception, right? But this is also a woman's power place. So this is when you have speaking engagements, when you are planning your most important podcast, when you're planning your events, your annual events, you want to plan them at your ovulation. You want to be the most magnetic woman in the room. And so we can start to plan on that. We have the energy, the resiliency of the testosterone to like really take up space and not be afraid to ask for what you want or to motivate people to do whatever it is in your heart that you're leading in. Okay. This is also the time for people who are maybe working in a corporation. This is when you ask for the raise. This is when you have the tough conversation. So if you've had a struggle in your intimate partnerships or at work, and you're like, why does this keep coming up for me? That menstrual hibernation phase is a good time to think about it. Ovulation, that's your inner summer. So we went from winter, spring to summer. That's when you're going to be like, okay, we need to have a conversation. And here's what's been coming up. And I've had time to think about this. And I've really thought about what's coming up for me. And I really want to share that with you because it's my heart's desire that you hear me properly. I don't want to say this at a time where it's not going to align, like I'm going to say something I don't mean. So it's a really magnetic time. Like the world loves you and you love the world back. So say yes to social engagements, put yourself out there, overschedule yourself, try the new training. Like you have the energy and vitality to rock it. Okay. Wow. And then we shift into our luteal phase. And this is the longest phase. And there's basically 2 weeks of our luteal phase. That first week, similar to an ovulation, you can do lots of fun things and you're going to be just fine. But as we shift into that PMS week that quintessentially most people really resist, this is our fall. We're about to go back into our inner winter. I used to, in my early career, look at that time and that PMS and I'd be like, all PMS is bad. We want to do everything, throw supplements and all these things, like make sure this woman has no PMS, except for if you start to notice yourself, especially at this time where your progesterone is peaking, and because conception doesn't happen, in that second week, so that day 21 is when your progesterone peaks. So you can still have a lot of energy until then, but that last week is all your hormones start to decline. The veil basically comes off, right? And so we can feel a lot of flooding of emotions and resentments and chronic issues. So as much as I don't want women to experience acne or breast tenderness or other, sleeplessness, those are things that should be addressed. The chronicity of complaints or resentments that come up for us during that time are the invitation to sit with that and chew on it in our menstrual, in that intuitive inner winter phase of like, why do I keep running into this kind of pattern? Why do I keep running into this business problem? Why do I keep running into this same friction point with this person? It's an invitation, because what they say about women is that we basically have 450 periods over our lifetime. Oof. You have 450 opportunities to really grow and evolve and expand. And if we continue to let those things fester, you've probably seen this with women, right? They hit menopause and like they leave their husbands and quit their job all in the same week. It's like burn it down.
Burn to the ground, baby.
Right? So that changed everything for me. And that's fundamentally what we're teaching women in the Wild Collective is like,
wow,
how do we take what we do and leverage our own innate wisdom so that we can feel powerful in every phase? Because I bet you if you were graceful with yourself on those days that you find a little bit harder, they probably match with your menstrual cycle. And if you just gave yourself permission to sleep in those days, or just take that training day off and have someone cover for you, you'd feel like a different person. And by the time ovulation hit, you'd be like, all right, Allie's back. Like, what do you need?
Well,
How do I do this?
A color-coded calendar. Mm-hmm. I'm also so visual. So
I think Kate Northrup has like literally a
perfect, because like something that's color coded and visual, but it's something that I know I hear it a lot in terms of training and cycle syncing with how you structure your workouts. But I had only just in the last maybe like 6 months have started to hear really like cycle syncing when it comes to productivity, expansion, your career, and what you're trying to build and maybe scale in your business. And so I think this is really interesting and probably very helpful for some people to maybe, rewind a couple minutes and hear Dr. Michelle go through each phase in greater detail and exploring that and how that maybe lines up for their calendar and their life. Yeah. I know I need to do that.
We can't obviously make everyone move around for our cycle. Yeah. Although I try. Yeah. There's a lot you personally schedule, right? So then now you can be way more intentional with your events and be like, I know what Alli I want to show up for that one, right? So there are very simple adjustments that we can shift and make happen so that you don't have to experience that warning sign because you've taken care of yourself. Because it truly is, and it's not like an men thing because I'm pro man, but we just are different, and we can't show up to our day every day exactly the same. We are not different. Our brain is not different. Our hormones are different. Like everything about us is fundamentally different every single day. And so we have to do our best to kind of fuse these two worlds, because there's the workforce that is the way it is. Mm-hmm. And then there's things that we know about ourselves. And like I said, like Europe is literally always ahead of us, really.
I know. But like, where are we?
They're giving women days off on their menstrual phase, like paid days, so that they can, because they probably see their return on investment, then women can show up much more productively.
Just being proactive.
Yeah. How do we not burn out? We actually honor rest when it's the invitation of our body, and so that we can keep going, because you don't want to slow down, is my guess. You love what you do. You're super excited about all the things that you're doing. So how do we infuse aspects or, very intelligent aspects of how we naturally operate into your everyday life so you can continue to perform at that capacity?
I love it. So many powerful takeaways. We need to do this again. I think it needs to be like a monthly thing.
I think
just a monthly date.
Fun doing this.
Well, and it's so interesting too, because I love, from what your experience as a naturopathic doctor, but also someone that moves her body and is so health passionate outside of your scope of practice, that we can speak the same language for, fitness and naturopathic medicine, but wanting to move in the right direction, and also both being entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of synergy. Really great energy here.
We're doing really good. Maybe we're both ovulating, who knows, but we're doing good.
such good energy, and it's such a treat to always have you on my show. And so thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you as well. I really enjoy our time together because, I don't know, we make magic happen.
Yeah, we have good conversations that I hope has been valuable to everybody listening.
Yeah.
And some good takeaways that I think if you are, again, kind of going back to the idea of being in an expansion season, if you are in that, well, congratulations, that's exciting. But you want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, especially coming from both of our experiences, either, being in one, experiencing burnout, getting back into it one of those seasons, and setting yourself up for the utmost success.
Yeah, I think we both know that there's nothing more important than prioritizing health to make sure that you can perform at that capacity. So
I love
these
that.
conversations are important.
And since we're on both of our shows, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Michelle Paris. We're revamping my website, so I'll share that soon. But poppyclinic.com or the-wild-collective.com. Because someone else owns my name, okay?
Right.
What about you?
You can find me on Instagram at Inspire and Move. That's me, Alli Arruda, as well as my website, inspireandmove.ca. Or if you are curious for our gym, it's benchmarkfitness.ca.
Which is so beautiful.
Thank you so much for being here, you beautiful soul. And thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in.